Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Luke Fryer, founder and CEO of Harri. I've been a restaurant entrepreneur for the last 20 years, both in Australia and the US. And I took somewhat of a career pivot around 8 years ago to start Harri. We're an end-to-end employee experience platform. That means we help our clients build their teams, manage their teams, grow, develop, and ultimately retain their talent. That's enough about Harri. We're here today to talk about the great balancing act. And it's the complex interaction of labour costs, productivity, and employee turnover in today's quite tumultuous labour landscape. So what we know is that when those things are in balance, we have the kind of stability we need to grow healthy businesses. When they're out of balance, we have stress. Things feel out of control. And we all know the numbers. Many of us feel very out of control from a labour perspective today. But let's look at some of the numbers behind labour cost, for example. You have seen, the BLS will tell us that wages have increased just over 9% in the last 12 months in the restaurant sector. Well, speaking to many of you, I feel that number's probably more like 15%. I'm not buying 9%. Headline inflation just under 8%, menu price increases just over 8%. What we know is that our wages have gone up faster than our ability to reprice and to match them. And unlike the inputs into our menu prices, our wages aren't going back down. Secondly, even when I learned economics in high school, when the price of something went up, supply would increase. But this time around, we still have a massive staffing shortage. Even though we've added 1.7 million jobs in the last 12 months, we're still 500,000 employees short across the sector. All right? And that shortage ties directly into productivity. By the way, that means 7 out of every 10 of you are running short-staffed at the moment. And if we look at QSR, we're running an average 80% staffing coverage. And that shortage ties directly into productivity. Firstly, it stresses our managers most. They're jumping on stations. They can't lead shifts as efficiently. And most importantly, they're not putting the time into training. So how do we attack this? We need a far more strategic and fundamental approach to what we call the employee experience. It's understanding how employees connect to our business. But we're doing this at a time when the trends in the greater workforce are more tumultuous than they've ever been before. Now, we've all heard of the Great Resignation, right? In September, 5.8% of people quit their jobs. In fact, since September of 21, that rate's been over 5% every month. Before the pandemic, it was never more than 2%. But have you also heard about the Great Retirement? We've had 10 million people leave the workforce, and that's had a drag effect, especially with more senior positions, right? It's actually pulled, and we felt that quite acutely, a drag effect through the labour force. There's also been the Great Reshuffle, this propensity for employees to prefer desk-based work or even logistics work, avoiding frontline positions, even though it turns out logistics, running around a warehouse is quite soul-crushing. And the Great Refusal. People just aren't accepting the same wages and conditions they've accepted previously. And the Great Relocation, quite important for us. 16 million people have moved since the beginning of the pandemic. That relocation from urban areas to suburban and especially rural, chasing a better quality of life, that's actually fundamentally impacted our seasonal labour forces, which we feel quite profoundly. But when you bring it all together, we have the Great Reset. It's a fundamental change in the way people look at work and how work fits into their lives. This is a more empowered workforce than we've ever seen before. You have to think about it differently, and it's not just about the money. You see, this sense of this empowerment is manifesting itself as a cry or a demand for flexibility. And that manifestation is different for different parts of the economy. So for desk-based workers, that's the I'm going to work from home movement, that very frustrating thing that we all deal with every day at the moment. But in our workforce, where our employees don't work from home, that cry for flexibility manifests itself with employees demanding greater control and power over when they work. And that means greater control and power over their schedules. We have to have smarter scheduling today. Scheduling is where work meets our employees' lives. It dictates their ability to spend time with their loved ones. It dictates their ability to pay their bills. We have to get smarter at how we schedule. And let's look at this in two ways. Firstly, through the lens of our hourly employee. Our hourly employees need three simple things from scheduling today. Firstly, they need predictability, consistency, both in the number of hours they work and, very importantly, the pattern of hours. Secondly, they need notice. Now, many of us are subject to regulations that require schedules to be shipped 2 or 3 weeks in advance. But best practice, you've got to be shipping schedules 7 to 10 days in advance to make employees happy, not the day before. And thirdly, once that schedule's published, we've got to have intelligent engagement, the ability to flex, swap a shift, pick up a shift. That has to be done within a framework of flexibility that works for cost, compliance, and culture. Our managers need automation. They can't be spending time forecasting. The schedules have to be predominantly built for them. Compliance has to be fully integrated, and the optimization of skills and coverage of employees needs to be handled in a very automated way. The best employers today are also thinking scheduling is part of a very holistic approach about how employees, especially our managers, connect to the business. It's about how you intersect scheduling and timekeeping, communication, performance, rewards, how we recognize employees. It has to be a very holistic and strategic approach. Because when we don't get scheduling right, we fuel turnover. Right? 65% of employees leave in the first 90 days because they're not happy with their schedule. And this underlying economic cancer in the profitability of our industry, we simply can't accept it any longer. But in order to understand the true impact of turnover on our business, we've got to be able to calculate it more scientifically, right, and more methodically than before. Historically, you would take a position, this is an hourly employee, this is a manager, and we'll grab a number like $1,500 for an hourly employee or $5,000 for a managerial employee. Multiply that by the turnover, by the number of people who've left, there we've got our number. We have to be far more granular. We have to do it by position. We have to look at our non-wage direct costs. So this is things like recruitment advertising, the time spent actually managing the recruitment process, onboarding, training. But then the much larger bucket of money is the direct wage cost. To give you an example of one way to approach this, run a termination report. Look at all the employees who've left in the first 90 days. Break that down by cohort, 7, 14, 21, 30, 60 days, and apply a productivity coefficient to that, right? Come up with that number. It'll be 15 to 22% of your total labor cost. So, as Piggy says, retention is worth your attention, because if we get it right, not only is the commercial payback substantial, we don't have to move the needle by a lot to make a big impact, but we see that those companies with the best retention have consistently the highest scores in terms of consistency of product, service, and brand delivery, right? They also have the highest rates of guest count growth. But where do we start? It's a big problem. Let's look at the first 90 days. 60% of all turnover, on average, occurs in the first 90 days. There's 8 million people on the Harri platform. We ask them regularly, why have you left in the first 90 days? It is a misalignment with scheduling. It's clearly people not understanding their task or career path planning, and also not knowing where and who I'm working with. But we are able to nail the 90 if we can align those schedules. And a lot of these concepts you see up here, these are the thought bubbles, if you will, from our surveys. A lot of the concepts you see up here tie back to much more powerful and effective communication. In our business, the medium is the message. You must be able to get the message through to the frontline employee. Today, you should be relying on technology to help predict, by asking these simple questions, if employees have an intent to depart or an intent to remain. So when we bring it all together, we can achieve balance. We have two key levers today in the employee or in the talent equation. One of them is retention, the other is smarter scheduling. We're seeing the best operators today apply the same rigor and intensity to the strategic building of the employee experience that they have to the customer experience, right? And if we do that, if we apply those same rigors, we will solve not only today's labour problems, but also create a future-proof platform that will serve us for years to come. Thank you very much for your time.